Hey guys, welcome to my Fullmetal Alchemist Day video. Oops. So it's been like a year since I first reviewed Fullmetal Alchemist, which seems kind of crazy. Now if you haven't seen the review, my opinion still stands, so I would recommend you go watch it. I'll have like a thingy on the screen for you to click. So I was thinking of what I could do for a Fullmetal Alchemist video, and I decided, why not get into the stuff that I didn't really talk about in my review. And that's kind of my entire experience with Fullmetal Alchemist. Like how I got into the series, what I think of all the different adaptations. Because Fullmetal Alchemist is such an amazing series, it's really worth appreciating, and I really want to talk about some of this stuff. So it's been a little over 2 years since I first got into this series. I'd always heard about it. It used to come on YTV when I was like a little kid, so I always knew it existed, but I never really got into it until maybe around summer of 2014. The reason I decided to get into it was actually pretty funny. Like a couple months earlier, I'd started watching anime, and at that point I'd really only seen like the super popular stuff. I think I'd seen Death Note and Attack on Titan, and that was about it. So I really wanted to watch more anime, so I decided to look online for suggestions to see some of the ones I should have watched. Then I came across the top 10 anime list that WatchMojo did. Now looking back at it now, that list is complete trash. Like, I'm sorry, but like pretty much everything that's wrong with WatchMojo is represented in this one video. And if you've never seen the video and don't know what I'm talking about, they like ranked Fairy Tail higher than Code Geass. But either way, I was new to anime, I didn't know much about any of these series, so I pretty much took their word for everything. One of the things I do agree with though is that they ranked Fullmetal Alchemist as #1. And this is when I decided, I'm like, you know what, I should probably watch Fullmetal Alchemist, it seems really good. Although the video also confused me, and another reason why the video sucks is because they actually said that Brotherhood was a sequel series to the original. Although in a weird way, I'm kind of thankful for this, because if at the time I had actually known what Brotherhood was, I may have skipped the original. And this is something I know a lot of people do. However, it's really worth mentioning and worth commending the original because it's still a fantastic series. So I started watching the original, it was on Netflix at the time. I really enjoyed it. Like the first part of the Fullmetal Alchemist where they go and they expose What's-His-Face for being a false prophet. I just love how this whole series starts. It does a really good job of letting us know what we're in for. So, I was enjoying it, I was following along, watching a few episodes every night, but then I got to the Nina Tucker episode. And this is when I realized that Fullmetal Alchemist was no joke. Like, this was the real deal, this was some awesome shit, and I was going to love every minute of it. Because, like, when you first experience this scene, it's insane. Like, you are speechless, you have no words for what you just witnessed. Shao Tucker's part in both series is so brief, yet he is almost universally known as one of the most hated anime characters ever. That is how good this story is. And yeah, so I just enjoyed the crap out of the original series. Because even when it strayed away from the plot of the manga and had filler episodes and stuff like that, it never felt out of place, and the writing stayed consistently good. It never did reach the heights of the manga and Brotherhood, but I think it is still an incredibly enjoyable experience in its own right, and I feel like it's a real shame if people decide to pass on it just because they hear that the manga and Brotherhood is better. The only thing that I really don't enjoy about the original series is the ending. I just found like the finale really unsatisfying, and I know there is a movie that acts as the conclusion to that series, but that shouldn't really be the case. So yeah, I finished the series overall really enjoying it, but I was left a bit disappointed. And of course in that time I did learn that Brotherhood was actually an adaptation of the manga and not a sequel. But I took a small break, I watched a few other series, and a couple months later I came back to watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. And of course this was my first time experiencing Arakawa's original story. And much of my opinions of Brotherhood and the manga are the same. It is definitely one of the best anime series ever created. It is impeccably written, the story is amazing, the voice acting in English and Japanese is fantastic, and it has some of the best animation you will ever see. Thing is though, do I think it's better than the manga? Hell no. That Christmas I got the Fullmetal Alchemist box set, and reading the manga I just realized, I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like, I'd already seen Brotherhood, so I already knew the entire story, yet this manga still continued to blow my mind. Although, since it's the same story, why do I think the manga is slightly better than Brotherhood? Well, honestly, for the most part, they're pretty much the exact same, but I think it's near the beginning where the manga shines a little bit more. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, a lot of people will just watch Brotherhood and be like, well, I don't need to read the manga now. And while, yeah, no, you don't really have to. You're still missing a little bit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the first part of Brotherhood, like the first 13 episodes or so, are actually rather rushed. And it's actually pretty clear what the reason is, because this part of Brotherhood adapts a lot of the same things that were in the original series, because the original series, for about half of it, followed the manga to a certain extent. Like, there was a lot of filler in between, but still, pretty much everything in the manga up to the point where I think Greed is first introduced. And, you know, that chick has to, like, hide inside of Alphonse, and then Bradley just, like, stabs her. Both of the anime series get up to that point. And obviously, I don't think the studio wanted to adapt, like, everything perfectly again, because they had already done it. And if people start watching the series and realize that it's, like, the exact same thing, they might not want to continue watching. But it's still weird that the anime series that is hailed as like one of the best adaptations of a manga of all time starts with a filler episode. Now, the first episode of Brotherhood is really awesome, but I feel like it was more so made for people who had already watched the original series. Because it just throws all the characters in there. It's like, oh, here's Mustang, here's Armstrong, here's Hawkeye, you know, all the squad. And it still does a good job introducing new people to the story. However, I feel like their introductions in the manga and the original series were handled a lot better. And I also liked how, you know, the first few chapters mainly just focused on the brothers. Another thing is that some of the chapters of the manga are left completely out of Brotherhood, specifically when they go to the Usual Mines and the train battle sequence. The first volume of the manga is the stuff in Lior, the Usual Mines, and the train. Things that were all in the original series and handled very well there. And I can kind of see why they cut the train out of Brotherhood, because this was the initial introduction of Hughes and Mustang in the manga. And you know, they kind of already done that with Brotherhood's first episode, so they didn't really need it. But I still have no idea why they cut out the Usual Mine. Like, this was such a good chapter early on, because it establishes what type of people the brothers are, like, right away. You know, where they trick Yoki into signing the mine over to them, and Edward acts like an asshole the whole time, but he actually has really good intentions. Like, I just love this entire scene, yet it is completely absent from Brotherhood. Although it's not left entirely out of Brotherhood, and this is why it makes no sense why they didn't adapt it. It's because Yoki comes back. Yoki is actually a pretty major character in Brotherhood near the end. Not really in the original series. In the original series, he just gets killed off or something. But you see, when Yoki comes into the story in Brotherhood, it's the first time we see him in that anime. But the characters already know who he is, so literally when Yoki gets introduced, they're like, hey, it's Yoki, remember that time we were at the mine and we turned the coal into gold or whatever? Now, obviously, if you've read the manga or seen the original series, you know exactly what they're talking about, you don't even care. But if Brotherhood is the only thing you've seen, you'd be like, okay. Although, let's be honest, these are really just nitpicks. Brotherhood is still fantastic. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I think the only other difference is that there's one recap episode in the middle of Brotherhood, which, you know, kind of makes sense because a lot of shit goes down in that series, and if you were watching it weekly when it came out, you might just want to be refreshed on everything that happened. But yeah, so back to the timeline. I read the manga for Fullmetal Alchemist. It just continued to blow me away. I actually stretched out reading this series over a couple of months because I knew that once I finished it, I'd be like, well, crap. Then that's it. But I think it really made me appreciate manga as an art form a lot more, and it of course made me want to start picking up more manga, but mainly like the intricacies of this plot and the characters, it made me just think a lot more, made me become a lot more critical of other manga, and it eventually led me to want to make manga reviews. And here we are. So I really do owe a lot to this series, because, you know, without it, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys right now. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Fullmetal Alchemist. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.